Hey everyone, hope you're all doing very well. Welcome back to another one here on the channel. In today's video, I got a very interesting one here for you, and that is because Arrma has announced their most recent radio control vehicle, and that is the Limitless 120 ready to run. Now, for some of us, this might be referenced as the V3 model, and that's because Arrma has already come out with the Limitless original, which is known as the V1, and then we have the Arrma Limitless V2. This was a roller chassis with a clear paintable body, and now we have the 120 ready to run model that is available, and that's exactly what we're going to be diving into in terms of the detail here in this video. Now, if you know anything about this channel and me specifically, I love things that go fast, and that's why this is something that is really cool to be able to speak about here on the channel. Now, at the time of this recording and when this video goes live, this vehicle is not yet available in stores. It's not yet available for several days. And because of that, that's why we don't have one here sitting in front of us. With that being said, let's jump into it and get started. And just like that, guys, we are on the Horizon website taking a look at the 1/7 Limitless ADAS AVC 4x4 ready to run brushless street speed. This one here I've clicked on is red and black. This is my preferred choice of colors. Now, if I do select the white one here, you can see what that looks like. Very cool, but I do prefer that red one. So if we take a look further down, we have the name here written as the Arrma Limitless 120 ADAS BLX. So a lot of guys might be referencing this as the Limitless 120 ready to run because these are appearing in the name in multiple different areas. And obviously the big thing about this vehicle is that this thing is capable of 120 miles per hour with the included optional gearing right out of the box. All you need to do is swap some gearing and you have yourself a 120 mile per hour vehicle that has all the components already selected for you, known to be good and running well. So this is important, and this is something that is really cool. Now, it does say here it includes a tunable aero package. If you ultimately want those top speeds, you're going to have to do a few things, and you may want to take away some of that air resistance by cutting away the aero package. So now what you want to do here is take a look at specifications, because ultimately we want to know what's under the hood of this vehicle. It comes with the Spectrum Firma 4685 motor, and we'll talk about why this is important here, specifically the length of this motor, 85 millimeters, and the diameter of it is 46 millimeters. The kV of this motor is 1450 kV, and that makes it good for an 8S application with an approximate max RPM of about 60,000 on a motor of this size. So if that doesn't mean anything to you, don't worry, because we're going to move in and look at some specifics with visuals. Now, this does include Spectrum's really good servo, and it pumps out lots of torque, no problems there. I'm not going to show and get into that. What we're going to do is we're going to tab over and take a look at the next one here, and that is the actual Firma motor. This is a Firma motor with an 8 millimeter. This is key because an 8 millimeter shaft just makes everything easier when you're looking at the gearing that you can use. And it is best if you actually use a gear that already has the D cut into that shaft so that you don't get any slippage between your gears. This is ideal for any type of radio controlled car. And what's nice about this specific motor, I don't know if it shows in the picture, so you kind of see it there a little bit, is that you do have an area where you can throw on that ring so that the gear cannot come off even if your set screw does loosen up. So I do like that feature in what Arrma's doing with their brushless motor. It just makes it that much easier. This is the clip that I want to show you, and it comes from quite a while ago where we compare the V1 to the V2, and it's very relevant today because that V3 or the 120 ready to run does share a similarity actually with the V1. Now you might think, why is it that the V1 is the platform for the new ready to run? Shouldn't it incorporate V2 and then added features or improved features? Well, not necessarily, and we're going to get into exactly why that is. So let's take a look at what this V2 actually comes with. We know this is the V2 because we can see the part number there. If you actually read it, it somewhere says V2. I don't know if it's this V2 here. And we also can take a look at the center spool where we have a short side and a long side for the outdrive there. And this is what the V2 used in order to make equal length drive shafts on each side for the front differential as we see here and for the rear differential. Now what this allowed is for this center section to be moved away here from the front end, giving us more room. So I'm about to place this 110, 115 millimeter motor here in there just to mock it up and show you that there is enough room for these long, big size can motors to fit into the V2 platform. Here is the clip of the V1. We know it's the V1 because we do have a symmetrical center spool, in which case the front end and the rear end is of the same length. And we do have a limit of 85 millimeters here for the brushless motor. This is the platform that our new 120 ready to run is taken off of. Now I do want to talk a little bit about this because it might seem like this was a poor choice by Arrma, but I would argue that this is a good choice from Arrma, and what we're seeing is part of the reason why. When we're talking a ready to run vehicle, the motor is already something that is included with that specific vehicle. And because it's included, we don't really need to change it. We're going to get those advertised speeds and we're going to be able to have a lot of fun doing so. So we don't have a reason to change that brushless motor. However, when we look at what we're dealing with here, and this is the backside of this V1, these battery bays are significantly larger than the bays that come on the V2. This will allow you to use some really good size batteries. And now we're going to jump into some components here. We're going to take a look at this first component. This is one of the new items that they actually introduced in the Limitless 120 ready to run. It is a limited slip center differential set, which does include a 46 tooth spur gear. Now, what is unique about this is the limited slip section of this particular model. We're going to talk about that when we get to the front and rear, but also the center differential never used to be a thing in the Limitless V1 or the V2. Now, what's important about this is if you're looking to bash your radio control vehicle here, the Limitless 120, you are going to want to keep this in that car so that you can have some more controlled and predictable handling. When we're looking for top speed runs, we're not looking for this type of component. What we're looking for is what is known as a spool. So flipping forward to the next item that we have here, here is our symmetrical spool. Got the short sides there. This is exactly what we went into when we looked at that previous video that I did as a comparison of V1 versus V2. We do have the 34 tooth Mod 1 gearing that is applied, so our spur gear is set up, and this is going to get you a lot more speed. Now, taking a look at the next component that we have here, this is the component that is found in the Limitless V2, and we can see how that spool has the extended shaft. I want to throw some of these components in here so that we can compare the V2 up against our new ready to run model. So if we go forward, we're going to take a look now of that front and rear differential of the new model. This is what it looks like and broken down into this factor here. We can see that we actually have the limited slip plates that are placed into this unit, and you can see there's two ways that it looks like you can set it up. You can have the maximum amount effect. I would expect that this has the maximum limited slip, and if you arrange it in this orientation and if you arrange it in that orientation, you're going to get the most minimum effect of this system. Very cool. I would love to be able to try this in the V1 or V2 models just to see exactly what this does in comparison to a complete fluid filled differential set. Very cool. I have not seen this before in the Arrma Limitless vehicle. So now moving into that next one, this is what the front and rear differential looks like. You can identify it easily by taking a look at this code here. The GP9 is what is used for that new model as opposed to the GP5. This is the GP5, and what that looks like, you can definitely tell the differences between here just by looking at that generational code. I don't know exactly what this means, but I know GP5 versus GP9 is going to be the difference difference here between the model of Differential and the Limitless V2 and the new Ready to Run, which is brand new to the Limitless lineup. So now taking a look at our next component here, this is the center drive shaft. Now this is an important component because we did see the longer drive shaft that runs from that center spool or center differential all the way to your rear differential. I'm going to bring that clip in here so we can see the length of this drive shaft going from our center, in this case spool, all the way to the rear differential. Now what would happen under tremendously high speed is that this drive shaft would begin to wobble and cause all kinds of chaos inside of this vehicle. So what gets rid of that, if I move this out of the way, is this center drive shaft speed support set. And that is what is included here in the new Limitless. Now I threw this section in because I really want to see what Arrma did in terms of that new Ready to Run model. Are they pulling from the V1 or the V2 stance? Now what is unique about the V2 here is that it does use this specific wheel hex along with this specific wheel axle in order to get a wider stance in the rear. And that is going to be super helpful for handling. Now these are the parts that actually come from the Ready to Run model, and this is the exact same ones that come from the Limitless V2. And as you can see, we're dealing with an 8mm by 39mm. Now the original V1 came with 36mm long drive shafts, which means that you are actually gaining 6mm of width in that rear side on the Limitless vehicle. So I love the fact that they actually kept with that and do use the rear stance look of the V2 Limitless. Now moving into the next item, what I wanted to do is run through very quick calculations. Since we don't have a vehicle to go and try, I want to throw it into the calculator just to see what actually comes out from this model. So we're going to go through the RCexplained Patreon calc sheet. If you're a member of the Tier 1, Tier 2 on this specific site, you are going to gain access to all of the tabs that you see here below. Now we're specifically going to go into this very first tab and we're going to take a look at this calculator, which is going to tell us and predict the speed that we expect this Limitless to travel at. We're going to go and enter in the green fields here on the left hand side in this box, and we're going to use the calculated loaded voltage per cell on the right hand side. In fact, we can go ahead and do that right now. I am expecting that this model is going to pull somewhere around 350 amps under load at 120 miles per hour. So this is not during acceleration, but at top speed. So we're going to throw in 350 amps, and then we're going to take a look at the average internal resistance that we expect per cell on the battery. Now I know that the Spectrum 4S, that's around 5,000 milliamp hour, was somewhere around 4.5 milliohms. I'm expecting if you get the 120C, the 6800 model, you're going to be somewhere around the 3 to 3.5. So this is a guess, an approximation of what I think that's going to be. Let's go ahead with 3.2 milliohms. And now let's jump back over and talk about the load factor. I do think that this motor is being pushed. I'm going to give it a load factor of 12%, and then we're going to make certain that our gearing does make sense. So our Limitless V2, I picked the Limitless V2 gearing because not necessarily the pinion and spur, we do have to change that, but because of the differential gear ratio. The differential gear ratio of the new model and of the V2 is identical. GP5 and GP9 do have the same ratio, which is key. And this is important because we did talk a little bit about that center drive shaft and how it is longer from the center differential to the rear differential, or center spool, I should say, to the rear differential. In that case, this is going to be traveling at a lower speed. So this is also going to reduce the potential for wobble or any excessive motion that comes from that, especially since we have the extra bearing set that's going to keep that on center. So overall, this model is an improvement upon the V1, even if it shares a similar configuration. Now let's jump back into our calculation. We have the pinion gear. It is a 32 that is included, 8mm in bore size. And then the spur gear is not 39. It is a 34 tooth gear. We go ahead and select that. And now we forgot to include one thing, and that's the kV. It is not 1000 kV. It is a 1450. And now we should have the prediction of speed. So this calculator, based off of the approximations that we're having here, or assumptions you can call them, is predicting that this model has the capability of traveling at 125 miles per hour. And I have had a really good luck with this calculator, and I can be certain that we're gonna see 120 miles per hour, and we have the potential, if you hold that trigger for quite some time at top speed and let it really ring out, you could see upwards of 125 miles per hour on decent batteries. That's really cool. Well guys, there you have it. This thing is absolutely incredible, and now we can say that Arrma is the #1 fastest name in RC. Well guys, that's all I have to say for now. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. As always, like the video if you do. Don't forget to hit that sub button so that I can see you guys in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching. See you in the next one.